Welcome to the City Club of Eugene's June 10th, 2022 program, Welcoming the Displaced, Refugee Resettlement in Lane County. This is the 33rd program of our 2021-2022 programming year, and my name is Karin Knutson, and I'm City Club's president. Support for the City Club of Eugene is provided by our members and sponsors. You can become a member of the City Club at our website, cityclubofeugene.org. This program is available live stream on our YouTube channel and archived there, also on Facebook and available as a podcast. And programs are broadcast on public radio station KLCC on Monday nights at 7 p.m. City Club has both business and in-kind sponsors. Our diamond sponsors are Kaiser Permanente, the University of Oregon, Peace Health, and Lane Community College. And we receive generous support from the City of Eugene and Lane County. Our format today includes a question and answer period with City Club members and non-members alike via live stream and text. If you're watching right now, you can see that text number on your screen. In today's forum, Welcoming the Displaced, Refugee Resettlement in Lane County, we will hear from Christine Zeller-Powell, an attorney with Refugee and Immigration Services Program at Catholic Community Services, as well as Oscar and Zara. More information and speaker biographies are available on our website, cityclubofeugene.org, and I would like to thank Ralph Pledger for coordinating today's program and Sandra Bishop for her support during today's question and answer period. And now, before we begin, some background on today's program. Among the newcomers to our community are people referred to by the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, the official resettlement program of the United States government. Refugees have fled their home country due to persecution. While overseas, they are screened and vetted by the United Nations and/or federal agencies of the United States, a process that typically takes years. If refugees are approved for resettlement in the United States, the International Organization for Migration arranges their travel here. And upon arrival, they are granted refugee status, a permanent status offering a pathway to citizenship, and they receive resettlement assistance. In Lane County, Catholic Community Services offers immediate help to anyone in need and supports families as they take these steps to move out of poverty. One of the programs that supports the mission is the Refugee Immigrant and Services Program, or RISP. As a contracted remote placement agency for the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, Catholic Community Services serves refugees of all faiths, nationalities, and ethnicities. The Refugee and Immigrant Services Program's Refugee Resettlement and Asylum Seekers Assistant Program supports refugees, asylum seekers, and asylees as they get reestablished and established in our community. These programs help clients to improve their language skills, provide transportation and critical appointments, and to support clients' efforts to obtain employment and find and pay for housing. Since 2016, RISP has resettled 9 immigrants from Syria, El Salvador, and Iran, and since October of 2021, RISP has resettled 33 individuals from Afghanistan and provided legal and social services to more than 100 people seeking asylum. So now, please welcome Christine Zeller-Powell, attorney with the Refugee and Immigration Services Program at Catholic Community Services, who will also introduce Oscar and Zara.
Hello, and thank you for that introduction. I'd like to thank the City Club of Eugene for the opportunity to speak today about refugee resettlement in Lane County. It's an honor to be here. Now, you have probably seen media coverage about the global refugee crisis, with the United Nations recently announcing that there are now over 100 million forcibly displaced people in the world, a new record, extensive news coverage of the Ukrainian refugee crisis, videos from last summer of desperate Afghans handing babies over barbed wire-topped walls to waiting U.S. soldiers, the constant arrival of people from around the world seeking asylum at our southern border. It can feel overwhelming and hard to know how to help. 7 years ago, in 2016, members of the Eugene Springfield community came together to figure out how our community could help welcome people who are fleeing persecution and violence. At that time, there was extensive news coverage of the Syrian refugee crisis. Remember those images of piles of orange life vests and overcrowded boats in the Mediterranean? Community meetings were held People from congregations of various faiths, service groups, nonprofits, and interested individuals showed up. Committees were formed. The system had changed since this community welcomed hundreds of refugees from Southeast Asia in the 1970s. We learned we needed a resettlement agency, but the nearest resettlement agencies were in Portland, too far away to resettle people in Lane County. So, Catholic Community Services, in collaboration with the Refugee Resettlement Coalition of Lane County, became an official refugee resettlement agency as part of the United States Refugee Admissions Program. We got off to a bit of a slow start due to low refugee admissions during the past several years, but we've now resettled 42 individuals in our community, 33 of those being Afghans that arrived since last October. And we have provided case management services and/or immigration legal services to hundreds of refugees, asylum seekers, and other immigrants. So today, I'd like to share with you how the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program works, what that process looks like, and what refugee resettlement looks like here in Lane County. I'm also very pleased to be joined today by several individuals who have settled in our community and will be sharing some of their experience in being forced to leave their home countries and ending up here. Okay, starting with the global overview. The UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, assists and protects the rights of refugees worldwide. According to the UN, the number of forcibly displaced people has more than doubled in the last 10 years to over 100 million. That's a little over 1% of the world's total population. Forcibly displaced people is a term that includes both people who've had to move within their country, like Ukrainians moving from Mariupol to cities in western Ukraine, and people who have had to flee their home country completely. About a quarter of these forcibly displaced people, over 26 million, are registered with the UN as refugees. Refugees are defined and protected in US and international law. The legal definition of a refugee dates back to the 1951 UN Convention on Refugees, which was created in response to people displaced in Europe by World War II. Okay, so I am an attorney, and I promise not to quote a bunch of statutes and regulations at you, but I'm going to read you the definition of a refugee from the UN Convention. It's short, fairly painless. A refugee is someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. The definition of refugee in US law is basically the same, but the wording is a bit more convoluted. Go figure. The UN Refugee Agency considers there to be 3 durable solutions for refugees. 1, voluntary repatriation. So that would mean things in the home country settle down and refugees go home. 2, integration. Refugees become citizens in their country of asylum, which is the country they fled to. The third option is resettlement in a third country. So that's not their home country, not the country they fled to, but a third country. Less than 1% of refugees registered with the UN are submitted for resettlement due to limited numbers of third countries willing to accept refugees. So that's the brief overview of the global situation and the UN framework. In the United States, we as a country joined the UN framework in 1967. Then the U.S. Refugee Act of 1980 is the legislation that created the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, which is the official resettlement program of the U.S. government. The U.S. Refugee Admissions Program is managed by the Department of State, so it's actually part of our foreign policy. It's also managed by the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Health and Human Services. Every September, the president sets a ceiling, or the maximum number of refugees to be admitted in the coming year. Historically, that number has fluctuated up and down with the number of refugees worldwide, with a higher ceiling in response to the Southeast Asian refugee crisis after Vietnam in the late 70s and early 80s, then a decrease in the mid-80s, then increases again in the early 1990s in response to the refugee crisis after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Arrivals averaged around 116,000 per year during that time. The total number of people admitted to the US through this program is around 3.1 million over the course of 42 years. After record low ceiling numbers from 2017 to 2021, the ceiling for fiscal year 2022 was set at 125,000. Now, unfortunately, actual arrivals are not expected to reach that ceiling due to the need to rebuild and restaff the U.S. refugee admissions program, both domestically and overseas. So, what does this look like at the individual level? No one chooses to become a refugee. Circumstances force them to do so. An individual's path to the U.S. through the U.S. refugee admissions program takes years and is mostly completed overseas, but after the individual has fled their home country. Refugees have to pass more screening and processing than any other immigrant group. There's a 20-step vetting process, including background checks by the UN and 9 different U.S. federal agencies. If the U.S. determines that an individual meets that definition of a refugee that we went over earlier, and then passes all the background checks and medical screenings, travel is arranged to the United States, the cost of which is a loan the refugee later repays. And once in the U.S., the individual has refugee as their official immigration status. That means they're eligible to work in the U.S., eligible to receive public benefits, can petition for certain close family members to join them here, and can apply for permanent resident status after 1 year and citizenship 5 years after arrival. They're also eligible to receive resettlement services from a resettlement agency. Okay, so the national structure of this program. There are 9 national resettlement agencies that have cooperative agreements with the Department of State. Each of the national agencies then has contracts with local affiliates. Catholic Community Services is one of those local affiliates. The local resettlement agency is responsible for providing up to 90 days of initial case management services. These services include meeting arrivals at the airport, providing furnished housing, they're not usually paying for the housing long term, and providing culturally appropriate food and other necessities. The resettlement agency is also responsible for enrolling refugees in employment services and English classes, enrolling children in school, registering eligible men for the selective service, helping refugees connect with medical care, and helping refugees apply for public benefits. There's a one-time grant of $1,225 per individual that is used to assist with a refugee's initial expenses. That obviously doesn't go very far, and resettlement agencies raise other funds in order to provide necessary assistance. Resettlement agencies are tasked with helping refugees achieve self-sufficiency through employment as soon as possible. 90 days is also a pretty short time frame for someone to get established in a new country. Fortunately, in Oregon, the state legislature has provided the 6 resettlement agencies, including Catholic Community Services, with funding to provide extended case management and employment support services for up to 24 months within the first 5 years. But where, you may ask, do asylum seekers fit into this? You may have heard the term asylum seeker in relation to people arriving at our southern border. Asylum seekers are people who are in the United States. They may have come here on a tourist visa or a work visa or student visa, or they may have crossed the border and sought out Border Patrol agents in order to seek asylum. They fear returning to their home country. Asylum seekers file for asylum, a process that typically takes many years due to sizable backlogs at the agencies that handle these claims. Asylum seekers are eligible for very few benefits while their cases are being adjudicated. And they're not eligible for work permits for some time when they first arrive. If asylum seekers are able to prove that they meet the definition of a refugee, there's that definition again, then they can be granted asylum by an asylum officer or an immigration judge, which gives them, like refugees, permission to work, eligibility for public benefits, ability to petition for certain family members to come to the U.S., and an immigration pathway to citizenship. What a grant of asylum does not do is make these individuals eligible for the initial 90-day case management services or the $1,225 grant. However, per our contracts, we can provide people granted asylum with extended case management and employment services, so we can offer some services. And here I want to share a story about an individual that we have worked with. She's from an African country and was represented by Catholic Charities attorneys from Portland and granted asylum in 2019. A few months later, she filed an I-730 petition for her minor son, who was still at home in Africa. It took over 2 years, but that petition was finally approved last year and sent to the embassy for processing. About 6 months later, the embassy contacted us to schedule an interview for the son, who at this point is no longer a minor. It took about another 2 months for the visa to be issued. In total, almost 3 years since asylum was granted to the mother and 6 years since she came to the United States and filed for asylum. I'm so pleased to say that the mother and son were very recently united here in Lane County, and we are so happy for this family. And while this story has a happy ending, it also illustrates just how slow the U.S. immigration system is and the importance of maintaining long-term connections with these individuals and families to support them in their journeys. We expect to maintain similar long-term connections with our new Afghan neighbors who have arrived in the last several months. Due to the need to evacuate these individuals and bring them to the U.S. quickly, they were not processed through the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, but brought to the U.S. with the immigration status of humanitarian parole, yet another legal category in immigration law, for 2 years. Congress passed legislation making these Afghan parolees eligible for the same initial resettlement services as refugees. So Catholic Community Services received funding to provide resettlement services. But Congress has yet to create a straightforward pathway to citizenship for Afghan parolees like exists for refugees. We are, through our Immigration Legal Services program, helping these individuals to file for asylum and special immigrant visas, both laborious and lengthy processes with no guarantee of success. This lack of a permanent immigration status is really significant because it places incredible stress on these individuals to know that they only have a valid immigration status for 2 years and to not have any viable options to petition to bring their family members here at this time. Of the 33 Afghans we've welcomed here, 9 are men whose wives and children are still in Afghanistan, separated during the chaotic evacuation process. You may remember seeing news reports about that. Hopefully, Congress will take action to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act, which would allow these Afghan parolees to apply directly for permanent resident status and be able to petition for their immediate families to come to the U.S. In the meantime, we will do our best to stay connected to and support these new members of our community while they are separated from their families, looking forward to the day when their families are able to come to the U.S. And what about Ukrainians? Well, while Congress made Afghan parolees eligible for initial resettlement services from resettlement agencies, they did not do so for Ukrainians. The Unite for Ukraine program allows individuals to financially sponsor Ukrainians who are seeking to come to the U.S. These sponsors and Ukrainians will be screened and vetted, and if approved, the Ukrainians will be allowed to come to the U.S. with humanitarian parole status for 2 years. Rather than resettlement agencies receiving funding to provide the initial resettlement services, the sponsors are to provide those services. We at Catholic Community Services are still determining how we can best support Ukrainian parolees that come to Lane County without currently having designated funding to do so. A year ago, the Refugee and Immigrant Services program at CCS had 2 staff, an attorney and a case manager. Through grants and funding from the state and federal governments, private foundations, and individual donors, we have been able to hire more staff and now have 3 case managers, an employment specialist, 2 attorneys, and a legal assistant. It's been some fast growth, but we needed to staff up to meet the need. We've also been fortunate to host a number of interns from the U of O Law School and other educational programs. The other thing that makes our work possible is our many dedicated volunteers. The Refugee Resettlement Coalition has teams of volunteers that help with everything from finding and furnishing housing, helping clients access medical care or learn English, putting together cultural orientation programs to help introduce newcomers to our community and culture, volunteers that provide transportation, and other volunteers that accompany our newest neighbors through the process of adapting to life in the U.S. Everything from learning the intricacies of our garbage and recycling system, yes, I know that plastic thing has a recycling symbol on it, but it goes in the garbage, not the recycling. to witnessing the pain and separation, the pain of separation from family and friends and one's former home. Our newest neighbors are also supported by many other local agencies, nonprofits, and businesses who are wonderful partners in this work. As a native Eugenian, I am very proud of our community's willingness to step up and welcome new neighbors from all over the world. New neighbors that enrich and strengthen our community and fill some of the many job openings at our local businesses. I hope we'll be able to continue to do this work for years to come. So that's the kind of the overview of the legal and social service aspect of this work. And at this time, I'd like to transition to hearing from some individuals about their own experiences. So first, I would like to introduce Oscar, who moved here in 2018 from El Salvador.
Hello, everyone. My name is Oscar, and I'm from El Salvador. I've been told I had to talk about my experience and my history since I moved to the United States. And first of all, I just want to say that this program, the person that have been helping me since I moved here the first day, because I never gonna forget the first day that I came here. Every single one that put a little bit of the time to do whatever they need to do to bring me up here. They were in the airport waiting for me, and it meant a lot for me. That was amazing. And then they been all the time behind me, trying to help me, and every single thing that I need. I remember one day that I needed to go and go to the store to get some stuff, because in the school they asked us to bring typical food from our country. And I just text one of the volunteers, and he left his job. He asked for a quick break, and he took me to the store, and I could able to cook my food and go to the school and get my 100% in the assignment. So it was pretty cool. They are always helping you. They are now only taking care about you to come here. They want you to achieve yourself and to be a better person, do whatever you want to do here. And most of the people that has been helping me with to me, they are already part of my family. I just refer to them like they are my family, like Rose and Bob. They are always there for me. Everything that I need, we're gonna figure out how we're gonna do. And it's been a good experience coming up here and become a better person. I'm already starting to become a CNA. I'm already working as a CNA, and I had the opportunity to keep studying to become a nurse, or maybe one day a doctor. And trust me that I don't think that I could do this in my country, because in my country the things are very different, and I couldn't even imagine going to a school like this. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that is behind these programs and are supporting this program to keep going. And I hope more people can have the same opportunity that I have, that I had before. And this is like a second life for me, and I'm so thankful that I could able to come here and have Christine and all the member staff that have been helping me. For me, they are part of my family now. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. It's so nice to get to hear from you. And then I would also like to introduce Zahra, who moved here in January from Afghanistan.
In the name of Allah, hello everyone. I'm Zahra. I'm from Afghanistan. I came to the United States in August. When I came to Washington, D.C., I was taken to Wisconsin by American Army. I was in Wisconsin for 4 months. In this process, they were moving Afghan refugees to different camps in different cities. When I was in Wisconsin, I applied for University of Oregon. After 4 or 5 weeks, I received an email. I was accepted in American English Institute. I had to come to the Eugene. I had never seen Eugene before. I was so nervous about that. I came to Eugene in January. When I arrived here, everything was new for me, the new place, the weather, the culture, everything. I was so scared because it was a new place for me, and I was alone here. Then I saw that Christine, Rosie, and my host family, Janet and Evelyn, were waiting for me at the airport. I was warmly welcomed by them. Then I came my host family house. The next day, I went to American English Institute. I met Cheryl, who is a head of the American English Institute. She was very kind. She gave information about American English Institute. When I was in Afghanistan, I studied law. Sometimes Cheryl arranged some meeting to different people to make my communication better with people. There are many students in American English Institute. They are from China, Japan, Taiwan, Saudi Arabia, and Afghanistan. They are very kind and friendly. And my host family are very kind. Sometimes we went to outside with them. They were trying to introduce us to the new environments. Sometimes we went to places of interest, some ballet, beach, aquarium, and another places. We had a good time with them. Our advocate is very kind. They help us when we have any problem or we want to go somewhere. Now, me, Mariam, and Zulaikha live together in new house. Me and Mariam work in graduate hotel, and Zulaikha works in residence inn. Everything is great here. Eugene is a beautiful place. I like and love here. Here is like my hometown. The people in here are very kind and friendly to everyone. But we miss our family. I hope one day we can have our family by our side and continue our education, which is one of our dreams. I'm really grateful to these people who helped us a lot through the worst and hardest time in our life, those who tried their best and struggled so much in order to make us forget our pain and sadness and never let us feel lonely. They were always by our side, and they are still in here helping and supporting us in each step of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine and Oscar and Zara. And now we are going to take a 5-minute break to compose some questions, and then we'll begin our Q&A portion of the program. So we'll be right back.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Bishop, City Club member since 1990. I want to reintroduce, we're just coming back after our 5-minute break, and we're entering the Q&A. But I'm going to let you know the program today is Welcoming the Displaced, Refugee Resettlement in Lane County. And we have an additional person that Christine would like to introduce before we go to our Q&A.
Thank you. I don't think this is on. Okay. I'm very pleased to welcome Ruth. Ruth moved here from Cameroon several years ago and is going to share some of her experience with us.
Thank you all, and thank you for the opportunity for letting me share my story, moving from West Africa, precisely English-speaking Cameroon, to here. That was in 2017, so a few years back. My home country is between the English and the French. And we are the minority. The English are the minority being colonized. We were colonized by the British, and it was under the United Nations Trust Territoryship, while the French-speaking Cameroonians were colonized by French under the same canopy of the UN Trust Territoryship. But because of what we have in the world today, each organ wants to become independent. The English-speaking said they have been marginalized for so long. They have never fought a war for over 60 years of their togetherness. So it started like a joke. The lawyers agitating for the fact that French-speaking magistrates were deployed into their territory, and then they were carrying out court proceedings with the French law, which the English-speaking Cameroonians could not understand. And the French-speaking law says you are condemned no matter what before the court of law. But with the English-speaking law, it says that you need to be bailed, and then you need to be proven guilty before you are being jailed. So it's the reverse with the French. So according to the French people, it shows that the English system has some authority over them. So they wanted to change that so that it should become a French-speaking, purely French-speaking courts. But the English-speaking people were refusing. So it didn't end there. They also had the deployment of teachers into the territory to teach English-speaking children into French. So immediately after the lawyers were agitating, they strike for like 2 or 3 months. The government did not see into their cry. The teachers also started. So that is the whole debacle that causes this strike. And internet was shut down for like 97 days, no internet for communication. And after that, I am an advocate for the rights of women with disabilities. So after this uprising, the government decided to arrest all leaders in the English-speaking zone. And those who were agitating and fighting for their rights, they were also being arrested. So in that turmoil, I decided to say, okay, now let me check out and see how this whole story is going to turn out. So I checked out, I came here. So that was my main reason to fly out. I had behind my head that maybe it's going to stop in 5 or 6 months. But you know how easy it's good to start something, but it's difficult to end it. So up to date, we are still fighting. The English-speaking now want to have an independent state of their own. And it is one of the third neglected wars in Africa, because it is being surrounded by interested parties who were part of the whole show. So many people don't know about it, but it's really happening, and more than 45,000 people have been killed. And we have more than 30,000 refugees in Nigeria, and we have the highest displacement all over the world. But we also have the Biden administration that is doing a great job to enact the TPP for Cameroon recently. That was to acknowledge the fact that something bad is really going there. So we have the temporary protected status now in Cameroon, first of its kind. So that is the story. But the real life of Ruth here in Eugene, I just have 1 minute, or how many? Okay, 1 minute. Moving from one place to the other, I try to term it like uprooting a tree and see if the tree will grow. So there is always a chance that the tree might die because you don't know the kind of soil you planted there. And there is also a possibility that it can be a best soil in the world and it's going to blossom. So I want to seize the opportunity to tell Eugenians and everybody that you guys have been a blessing to Ruth, and I have been struggling. It's not been easy. I cannot say it's an easy ride, but I have been surviving. And as a woman with disability, I have all the challenges that I can face, but I keep trying my best. I work with Next Step Recycling, and I'm forging ahead. So if you have any question for Ruth, I'm here. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you very much. Glad to have you here with us. So we'll do Q&A, and we have some in-person audience today, which is wonderful. So please, the microphone is here, stage right, house left. So please, if you have a question, come up to the mic. And to get us started, one of the questions that people have is that there's been many Afghanistan refugees who are Muslim, and also people from other countries that come as refugees have different religious beliefs. Has that been a challenge in either for Christine in supporting refugees coming, and how are the religious orientations respected in the refugees? Christine, if you'd like to kick it off.
Okay. So, yeah, the majority, almost all of the refugees that we have resettled, including the Afghans, have been Muslim. And so that's definitely an issue we've worked with. And there are, it can be an issue when providing food because we want to respect our clients' desires to eat halal food. People can also have different, views on roles of women and the family, and we try to be respectful of all of that. We've also learned that just because somebody comes from a Muslim country and considers themselves Muslim doesn't mean that they want to actively participate in Friday prayers, for example. So we've gone a little bit too far sometimes in encouraging people to go to Friday prayers and realized, oh, wait, we need to pull back. They don't want to go. But we have also provided rides to people who want to go to the Islamic Center and have tried to, we recognize the importance of connecting with people of your own faith. So,
thank you. Zahar, have you had any experiences related to your cultural background or religion that you can share? About being settling in an area that's predominantly Christian. Have you had any issues with integrating in that have related to being from a different faith or different cultural background for your faith?
Yeah. When I was in Afghanistan, I wear a scarf, but I thought here is different. I cannot wear a scarf, but I'm very happy. There is a lot of ethnic here. There is a different culture here, and every person respect for another person.
Great, thank you so much. Another question that has come up is, how is housing provided? We are in the middle of a major housing crisis in Eugene, and what resources have been used to be able to house refugees as they're resettled in Eugene?
At the first time, we came to host the family house. Now, me and my friends live in new house, but government support us.
Oh, good. So it was a government program that paid for the housing to start with?
Yeah, government support us from 2020 to April up to 2023 April.
Great, thank you. So, Christine, that kind of leads into another question. There are a lot of state of Oregon refugee programs and federal refugee resettlement programs, and I know you talked a little bit about it, but in your remarks. But what is one of the areas where you're finding that you could use more from the state or federal as far as supporting resettlement?
Good question. So we do have funding from different places. So that first 90 days is mostly funded through federal dollars. And then the state of Oregon, in order to support refugee resettlement here, has provided, the legislature provided funding for the extended case management and employment support services. And then when the Afghan evacuation happened, they actually provide additional resources for rent assistance and then also legal services, because this population needs those immigration legal services. So where could we use more funding? I mean, I think housing is always a challenge. The funds that the state made available for Afghan rental assistance are limited to Afghans who came here through the evacuation. So those funds will not be available for other refugees or Afghans who come through the refugee program. So housing is always a need. And I think we're still finding our way, along with other resettlement agencies, for how we can best serve Ukrainians. So it seemed lately like every few months we have a new crisis and a new population to deal with. So it would be great if we could get everybody funneled back into the refugee admissions program, because that's a single system that's pretty well established, but we'll see.
I want to ask this question and have Oscar answer first, and then perhaps the rest of you can chime in. How do you feel about having to wait? Well, is it 5 years to citizenship, or is it 5 years before you can apply and get on the track for citizenship? Are you looking forward to citizenship, or how are you even thinking about that at this early stage?
So about that, I've been told after 1 year we can apply to be a permanent resident, and I'm actually a permanent resident already. And I've been told that I gotta wait 5 years to apply to become a citizenship. And I actually already have my appointment with my attorney in Portland to do all the paperwork. So I guess it's kind of fair, because we have the same period of time that most of the people have to become a citizenship. So I feel very happy about that we have been treated the same way as the other people. It's been trained too.
Yeah, congratulations on getting that step. And could we have Ruth make a comment about have you started that process of citizenship, or are you interested in that?
Yeah, the first year I had my asylum paper, and then that was, now I already have my permanent resident status.
Congratulations, yeah, that's a big step.
Yeah, so that is after 1 year, same as he stipulate. After 1 year, you need to apply. It just depends on how informed refugees are, because some of us are not well informed, so it delays the process as the government have stipulated. But when you are well informed, you are with the refugee resettlement. They always keep you updated, and you follow the process, and it goes smoothly. So when you are not on that, it always be a challenge because you don't know what is happening and you don't have the necessary help.
Yeah, I really appreciate that answer. I know my personal experience, I helped to sponsor some Tibetan refugees into Oregon, and one man took 7 years before he could get his wife and family. And I think because we didn't have the kind of help that Christine and others were providing, it was a long time ago, so that was a long time to wait for family. So, Christine, if you could explain a little bit more, there's a coalition in Eugene area, I assume, I'm not sure if it may be all of Lane County, the Refugee Resettlement Coalition. Could you explain a little bit more on how your organization works, or are you heading that?
Sure. So the Refugee Resettlement Coalition of Lane County formed in 2016 at the same time that Catholic Community Services signed the contract to be the resettlement agency.
Oh, great. You did talk about that in your
Okay.
remarks, but people are wondering, well, what does that mean? Can
Right.
ordinary people get involved with that, or is it just
Yeah,
at the
yes.
agency level?
No, so the Resettlement Coalition does a lot of things. So people come together in their teams of volunteers that do all the things I talked about earlier, and also help with fundraising or hosting other events. Actually, this Thursday, June 16th, we're going to have a celebration of World Refugee Day. It's actually going to be here at First United Methodist Church in the parking lot, 4 to 6:30, and they're going to be making refugee relief kits, which are kits that have towels and basic hygiene and personal care items that are then sent to refugees around the world. There's a suggested $25 donation per relief kit. It's a great event for kids. I took my kids last year, and I had a hard time getting them to stop making relief kits. So there's that. And we can also have individuals getting on the mailing list for the Refugee Resettlement Coalition is a great way to get involved. And there's also an opportunity for community partners. So if you have an organization that wants to support refugee resettlement in Lane County, organizations can make that step to become public sponsors.
Great, thank you. We do have a few more minutes for questions, so is there anyone in the audience that had a question they'd like to ask? Karen, all right.
Thank you all very much for being here today. I'm curious.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, of course. Karen Knutson, City Club President, longtime member. And Christine, in your introduction, you mentioned working with a mother who was also trying to bring her son to join her here in Lane County. And I'm just curious if you could say more about how, is that a common experience where an individual family member, a parent, or a child is the first of a group of people who are imperiled and seeking resettlement, who are then working to try and reunite their families here? Could you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, yes, unfortunately, families are often separated during that process of having to flee the home country, right? I mean, it's a often chaotic situation, and whoever can get out, gets out. And then that person who's got out, once they reach a place of safety, they try to reach back and bring their family to safety as well. So it is very common.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sharon Reed, longtime member of City Club. My question is, I'm curious, because it sounds like, Ruth, you are currently connected with Next Step, and is it Zara, is that the graduate? Who's that?
She's a lawyer, but she's working at the graduate.
Yes, but employed there, and then you are working towards employment. How does the Catholic Community Services coordinate with employers? Are there certain employers here in the Eugene area that are more open to that? And because I would think that as you are making your application, you don't bring maybe the more formal references and all of that. So I'm interested to hear how you are able to move into employment situations under some more challenging situations.
Sure. So in the past, we have had a variety of volunteers who have worked their connections to help our clients find employment. And then starting in January, we were actually able to hire a staff person whose job it is to connect with businesses, companies, nonprofits, to help our clients find work. And so his name is Bob Fitton, and he would be happy to talk to anybody who wants to hire a refugee. And he'll start with the very basics, with putting together a resume, practicing kind of interview questions and what that's like, and just walks people through that whole process, and then stays connected with them usually during the first 3 months of employment to continue supporting their work.
Thank you. Ruth, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to cue in, when we familiarize with ourselves with the cluster of people helping us from the refugee settlement, as we are progressing into it, we have help, either for transportation, going to do our things, and going to see our lawyers. All those processes, we start communicating and trying to see what are the best options for us. When you don't have any paperwork, we depend solely on them. So until when we have at least asylum paper and your work permit, that gives you an opportunity now for you now to practice and volunteer. So the resettlement is always there to let you know the varieties that are available and the steps that we need to take in order to fit into the community.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have time for a couple more questions. Oscar, did you have a comment about
Sorry?
Did you have a comment about that last question?
Yeah, just a quick reminder. Like 2 years ago, I think we had Hank, right? That he used to help us with finding a job. And when they say, I would like to look for a new job when I have benefits and everything, and he told me, give me a couple minutes, and after 1 hour, he came out with like 7 offers of job for me. That was
good.
amazing. I just texted him like, I need to find another job, and he asked me for some quick question, and then okay, I hit you back in a little bit, and then after 1 hour, he started sending me all the 7 places that were interested to hire me. So that's pretty amazing. And the thing that is amazed me is because in my country you gotta look for maybe a month to find a regular place to work with, but he managed to do it in 1 hour to find 7 different places close to me. Okay, so that's pretty awesome.
That's wonderful, yes. A question that is a little related to this. I know when an attorney moves from another state, they can go to the state bar, the Oregon State Bar, and they have to take a test and do that. But I've had a lot of experience with professionals coming as refugees and not being able to transition back into their profession. Zahar, do you know if there's any movement or any chance that people will, any programs at the state or federal level, or have you heard of any way that people are able to go back into their professions if they're already established as a professional? It's a complicated question, but as an attorney coming here, you're not recognized as an attorney. Is there any way that they can take into account your previous learning, your previous education experience so that you can practice as an attorney here, or do you just have to start from the beginning as a student and go all the way through the law school practice?
I came here, but now I didn't take my document from Afghanistan, but I want to enroll in law school in the future.
Oh, so you will go to law school?
Yeah, but I don't know my document accept in this country or no, but I want to continue my education in law school.
All right, thank you. And there's one sort of larger question that people had, and that is about the ceiling for the maximum number of refugees. And this is a question for Christine. It used to be that there were ceilings on the number of people allowed from different countries. Is that still the case, or is it just a total ceiling?
So in the U.S., there are quotas or ceilings on all sorts of different parts of the U.S. immigration system. So for the total number of visas issued per year outside the refugee system, there are limits per country. Within that ceiling, the State Department usually sets targets for numbers from certain countries or certain regions of the world, depending on the need.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you. That's the wrap up for the Q&A, and I'm going to turn it back over to Karen to end our program today.
Thank you, Ruth, Zara, Oscar, and Christine for joining us today. This has been our June 10th, 2022 program welcoming the displaced Refugee Resettlement in Lane County. City Club programs are made possible with the support of members and sponsors. Thank you to City Club's diamond sponsors, Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable health care services and to improve the health of our members and communities we serve. For more information, please visit www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. More information is available at uoregon.edu. Peace Health has been proud to serve Eugene, Lane County, and beyond as your hometown healthcare provider for more than 80 years. The Peace Health mission is to keep you and your family healthy, and you can learn more at peacehealth.org. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, please visit lanecc.edu, and we are grateful for the generous support that we receive from the City of Eugene and Lane County as well. I would also like to acknowledge our Sapphire sponsor, Bennett & Dean Real Estate, a full-service real estate brokerage offering a comprehensive range of services for buying and selling in Lane County residents. For more information, please visit bennettdean.com. And today's gold sponsors, Hummingbird Wholesale, Headshots Eugene, and Arcimoto. Thank you also, of course, to our in-kind sponsors, KRVM 91.9 Radio, Pack Info and Simplified Computing LLC, and Dotson's Photography. And a special thank you to our award-winning public radio station, KLCC FM 89.7, for airing City Club programs on Monday nights at 7 o'clock. Our programs are always available on YouTube, Facebook, and via our podcast channels, and we invite everyone to participate in City Club programs in person at our 2022 venue, the First United Methodist Church at 1376 Olive, or via live stream and on our YouTube page. For more information, please visit cityclubofeugene.org. That is also where you can suggest future programs that you would like to see as a part of City Club. Next week, we will return our attention to the war in Ukraine, its causes and effects. City Club will welcome 3 experts who will address various aspects of that ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis. We look forward to having you join us. More details and information about future programs is available online at our website, cityclubofeugene.org. And I want to just say one last thank you to today's speakers, Christine Zeller, Ruth, Oscar, and Zara, for a wonderful program. Thank you all for being with us today. It's been a pleasure to welcome you to the City Club of Eugene. Be well, stay safe, and we look forward to connecting again next week.